Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online, KosherTorah.com. To begin with, we don't need to repeat the past. We all know what's been going on in the past few days in Israel. We've been watching the news. We've seen what's happened. And I don't need to review anything with you. I will just say one thing. I told you so. I warned you that these things were coming. I said to you in my recent videos to understand the nature of the relationship of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and what we call Hoshana Rabbah, that when it comes to the edicts and judgment of God, you have Rosh Hashanah where it's signed, Yom Kippur where it's sealed, and on Hoshana Rabbah it's delivered. And literally, at the end of that day of Hoshana Rabbah, war began. Now understand and know this is only the beginning of things. Things are going to escalate globally. This is all a plan, as we say, Me'et Hashem Hayatazot. This is God's plan. This is the way it's going to be. And for those of you who think that this is going to be isolated to Israel, you are deadly wrong. And I say deadly wrong because this is going to spill out everywhere. It's going to spill out into the streets of all the major cities around the world. It's going to spill out into the streets of the United States, Europe, even Australia, Canada. No one's going to be safe anywhere. You're going to have chaos. You're going to have violence. You're going to have upheavals. Israel is going to have conflict with Iran. One way or another, it's going to happen. Iran, as we know, is in the hands of Russia right now. Israel's in the hands of the United States. We see where all the chess pieces are coming down on the board. The great war of Gog and Magog that was prophesied, it's materializing right now. Things are happening. And like I said, this is all part of God's plans. You're not going to change it. You're not going to run away from it. And in case you think that you're going to be able to hide behind a facade of religion, and that by reciting Psalms, you're magically going to be protected. Okay? If that's the way you believe, let's find out if you're right or not. Because about 100 years or so ago, many did exactly that. And they all ended up either dead or in Auschwitz and died there most likely. You must remember the most practical and profound teachings that our sages have taught through the centuries and that have been echoed by wise and intelligent men throughout history. Benjamin Franklin said it best: God helps those who help themselves. And our sages said, Ein somchim ala nes. We do not rely upon miracles. It is now time for you to recognize what we've been talking about, me and many others, getting ready for what's happening. Start thinking like the Jews in Europe needed to think a century ago. You must be prepared. You must become mobile. You must recognize what you need to do to stay safe. The streets of the major cities are going to turn into shooting galleries, whether it's going to be actually with guns or anything else. Jews are going to be targeted for violence everywhere. This is going to happen. Don't think because you're secular or because you're not identified, you'll be identified. And many people will be identified as Jews who even aren't Jews. Because if you stand up for what is righteous, if you stand up for the Bible, if you stand up for God, if you stand up for Israel, and I'm talking about our Christian brothers and sisters, and believe it or not, even some of the good members and righteous people in other communities, even in the Islamic community and in the other religions, these people, they're our brothers and sisters. They're not bad and evil. But every community has its bad and evil people within it, including our own Jewish community. Don't deny that. And this is God's plan to weed out the wicked and to give them their due. You must be prepared. You must be practical. For those of you who live in your urban cities, I've been telling you a long time, get the blank out as fast as you can. And if you cannot or will not do that, be prepared to what you're going to face. It's going to start with more and more attacks on individual Jews in the cities. And most Jews today are passive. They're weak. They are open targets, and they're going to be targeted. And until they learn their lessons not to be like this, they will remain targets. And you can say, well, God will protect and God will provide. Yeah, I know all the things that are written in all the books. And let me tell you this, God's going to protect you and God's going to provide for you when you provide for God the tools through which to act. I cannot tell you how important it is. Hear me now. You as an individual need to learn whatever form and means of self-defense that you are personally capable of doing. You should maybe, and forget about Kung Fu and karate schools. You don't have the time. There must be specific courses, maybe a one-time seminar to teach how to get away from an attack on an opponent. Maybe there are videos like this. Maybe there are millions of videos maybe like this on YouTube and the like. Get a group together, watch some of these videos and practice with one another. If you need some form of self-defense, I will never, ever, ever go public and say, do something illegal, God forbid. But do what you need to do to stay safe and alive. There are many ways and means for self-defense that are available and viable, even in places like New York, where they have the most stringent laws against these things. It hasn't stopped and it will not stop the criminal element. The criminal element who hate Jews and hate the righteous, they're going to come after you with whatever they have. If they can't get their hands on a gun, they'll attack you with a hammer. They'll ram you with a car. You need situational awareness to know this. You're living in a meat grinder, and you know what happens there. You've heard it from me before. I'm telling it to you again. Get out of the urban areas while you still have time. I said to you, and I repeat it to you now, I don't foresee nuclear war this year. But as I prayed over the holiday, I asked and I said, God, what's coming down the pike? And I got a little, almost like, I don't know how to describe it. The impression was, when I was asking back at the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that the framework of my request was rather narrow. I asked if there would only be a nuclear war this year. And the answer was, God is merciful. But within the context of God's mercy, there are greater things still that are going to happen. Hear me now. If you cannot get your food supplies, backup stuff, protection stuff, what are you going to do if, God forbid, in the wintertime, there's an attack on an electrical grid? Do you have blankets in your house to stay warm? Do you have a backup food supply to prepare for your family for weeks? Can you defend yourself against home invaders or people want to attack you on the streets? You better think about these things now, because you don't have any more time, period. You want to say God's grace, God, okay, God's going to prepare and provide for all, just like he did for all those who suffer and die. Because God demands of us to be practical, realistic, down to earth and grounded, and to do what we need to do. And God does not take our responsibility when we do not pick it up ourselves. God holds us accountable. An old saying I say, you do what you can. God will do what you can't. It doesn't work the other way around, where you do what you want to do and God will do what you don't want to do. That doesn't happen. I'm giving you a message now. I confess it might make you afraid. That might set you in a panic. I get it. I understand that, and I'll take that responsibility, because I'd much rather you be afraid and even in panic that it will motivate you to do things that you need to do. Because bottom line, that's all that matters now. And for all of those of you, my brothers and sisters out there, I don't care what our religions are, what our faiths, color, anything, none of that matters now. Doesn't matter what we believe. Doesn't matter how we feel. For those who are together, believing in God, faithful to a more righteous cause, we got to learn to stand together. The haters, they're out there. Look on some of these prepper websites. Read the comments of how people are commenting, blaming the Jews. There are already conspiracy theories out there claiming that what happened in Israel today was an inside job perpetrated by the Israeli government against its own people. We have all these kinds of conspiracy theories. Bottom line is they always point the finger and blame the Jews. Hear me, they're going to be coming. And I don't mean in any organized way. I do not anticipate the landing of Russian or Iranian troops on the streets of the United States. Whether or not that'll happen, only God knows. But the hatred is running amok, and it cannot be put back in the bottle. I believe it was just yesterday, I had a pro-Palestinian demonstration in New York City. Okay, whatever. But they were having Nazi flags there as well. It was, I think it was in the New York Post. They showed somebody this little Nazi symbol there. Now, if you look at the way and the nature of how the Hamas troops perpetrated their attack, this was not a specific military style effort. These were people who just went wild and crazy and killed randomly. That's hatred. And that, the greatest fear, is that that will be coming around the world. Hatred. And if the people with hatred can't kill you with a gun, like I said, they'll go to Home Depot and kill you with a screwdriver, a hammer, ram you with a car. These things have already happened around the world, and they're going to get worse. And you need to be prepared. You need the self-awareness as you walk down the street every single day. You need to do what you need to do. Look on YouTube, learn ways and means of self-defense. You need to become an aggressor as opposed to a victim. Here it is. This is not my everyday or rabbinic talk that I love to give to people. But bottom line, right now, this is about saving lives. Get yourselves ready. Get yourselves mobile. Learn what it means to be a prepper. Go watch some of these prepper channels. They got really good ones out there. Learn what it means to take care of yourself, become self-sufficient, and do what you need to do. Recognize the times and be wise. Don't be a fool. Be strong. Don't be weak. God is already with you. But you got to start being with God the right way. Stop relying on some religious fantasies that somehow magically it's all going to go away. It's not. And for those of you who are secular Jews, you're going to be the number one target. Better deal with it now. I wish I could tell you, oh, if you become religious, everything will be better. I wish I could say that, honestly, but I can't. Didn't help the Jews in the Holocaust. It's not going to help now. Get ready. Be prepared. I don't want to say these words that just came to my head. I don't. But I feel like, a little thing in me tells me, get ready to fight. Okay. God's blessings to us all. I hope and pray that, what can I say? Better times to come. But let's get through these hard times, and they are going to be hard. All right, this is not going away, guys. Hear me on this for your own sakes. May God bless us all. And I'll conclude in the words in the essay I just sent out to my KosherTorah school students. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemer Rabba. Those of you Jewish, you know those are the words of the famous Kaddish prayer. May God's name be exalted and sanctified, because that's what this is all about. It's the hands of heaven guiding everything here on earth to raise up and purify our souls. So this is going to be the time of our testing. We got to learn to do what we need to do. May God bless us all. Thank you for listening. Please support our channel, click like on the button, all that YouTube stuff. I really hate to have to do that because whatever. But yeah, I mean, we need your support as everybody else does. So thanks for that. I do appreciate it. God's blessings. Shalom.